7 years. Seven entire full ass years. 7 years today, March 2nd, 2021. I have been 100% drug and alcohol free. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what sobriety was like for me through years 1 through 7, and how my mindset changed and how other aspects of the journey changed or got easier or got like weirder throughout the years. So before we get started, just like in my previous videos, I'm going to talk about the shirt that I'm wearing. And this one is actually a very special one. I designed it, and it says sober as frig. I guess, you know, more of like an East Coast Canada slang. I'm not sure if other places say frig. I'm sure they do, but it's just more prevalent here, like Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. And it says Sober City Halifax, because Sober City is what I created. So you can buy your own shirt on my website if you go to sobercity.ca. The link is down below in the description. I have some other merch on there too, like another shirt that has the No Hangover Crew logo on it, and I still have a fair amount in stock, so go ahead and order a shirt. It comes straight from my house. Literally in the next room is where I have like my Sober City stuff. This is actually my bedroom where I record YouTube videos. But anyway, I package it, I hand do everything, and I send it in the mail, and you get your shirt straight from me with love infused into it. So go ahead and buy one. So during the first year of sobriety, that is when I was super into recovery. I was taking advantage of all the free counseling that I could get my hands on. I was reading all the recovery memoirs, reading all the stuff about sobriety, looking on YouTube for other people who had shared their sobriety stories, and researching sobriety and recovery and what alcohol, like the absence of alcohol in our body does, all that kind of stuff. I would also have weekly dreams that I was getting drunk, and then I'd wake up and feel panicked, but then relieved that it wasn't real. That was just my brain rewiring itself and trying to figure out what was going on. My panic attacks and like weekly mental breakdowns were gone. Pretty much as soon as I stopped drinking poison, like that left. But I was still left with a lot of mental health issues. And at the time it made sense, of course, because I had a lot to work on myself, and I would drink to numb and to block out really any feelings, or I would drink to feel normal, or drink to experience feelings that distracted or that were a band-aid over other feelings. And denial was a huge thing, and shame and guilt and all that kind of stuff. So as soon as I took away that crutch or that band-aid of drinking, and I had no other coping mechanisms I was learning, then a lot of stuff came to the surface. So that's what the first year was doing, was basically like acknowledging, yes, I have feelings, acknowledging, yes, I have a lot of baggage, and I have not really a whole lot of coping skills. But near that end of that first year, I was learning better on how to handle bad days, or how to handle rejection, resentment, all that kind of stuff. So I was getting better at it. So into year 2, I find with other people too, like after you get your 1 year sober, and you look around at your life, you're like, okay, but like I still get urges, I still get triggered. What's going on? Like I thought I would be like fixed. Like how come it's still hard a lot of the times? And that's how it was for me. It was still pretty hard even around year 1, because I could see other people who were sober for a year or 2, and they seemed like they had everything together. They seemed like they knew that they were confident in their sobriety, and that like they were good with it. And going into like the year 2, I was getting better at that, but it was still hard. I would still have urges, and I would still, man, that is the rain. It's pouring out. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry. I don't have control over the weather. yet. So also with feeling jealous and sad about drunk people, or like feeling jealous that my friends were out partying, um, that was still sort of a thing between year one and year two. It was getting better, but I would still get really jealous, yeah, and like feel like I was happy that I was sober, but I was just like, it sucks. Like it's not the same to go out with friends, or like to, you know, go have a bonfire in someone's backyard. Like it wasn't the same because everyone else was drinking and I wasn't. Like I was happy I wasn't. The next morning I'd wake up, I'd feel great, and everyone else would be hungover and feel like crap, and then have to deal their whole day's wasted. Whereas I had all the time and I felt great. So like I was glad I wasn't drinking, but there was a part of me that was still sad that I couldn't. Sad that like I had to make the decision to get sober, even though I knew it was the right one. That was still a thing in like between year one and two, and it freaked me out, thinking that maybe that should, like, is that normal? Should that still be a thing? Does that mean there's something wrong with me? Completely normal. And throughout the years, that got easier and easier. And now at 7 years, like it's rare that I would feel jealous of a drunk person. It would be, and even like into year 3, 4, like it wasn't a thing really where I would be jealous and sad. If I saw my friends like pictures on Facebook or Instagram, and I saw that they were all together partying and I wasn't there, I no, I'm like, okay, well, that's what they were doing. I was doing something else, or I was doing nothing. Like it didn't really affect me that much anymore. So after 2 years sober, like in that time period is generally around the time where I was a lot more at peace with sobriety, and it was more of, this is my life now. Like I never really, like, it didn't feel foreign anymore. It felt normal to say no if someone offered me a drink. Like it was just a fact about me. It was just becoming the new normal, and or it was the new normal really, after 2 years sober. And I've talked to other people who have many years, and they said around that time too for them is when it started to feel, or that around for them too is when it was just their new way of living, and they were good with that. So around this time too is when I really noticed that I had so much more time in my life, because you know you weren't, your day wasn't ruined by a hangover, or like days. I've had days where like 2 or 3 days where I just didn't feel right. Like I felt like crap, like not motivated and like sluggish and all that kind of stuff, from drinking. So as soon as I cut that out, yeah, you just have so much more time. You feel like you're a lot more productive because you have more time, and you don't feel so like panicked and rushy. At least I didn't, because you're like, oh, I have an entire Sunday that I can get up early and like get things accomplished into the night. Like, whereas before I'd be like, Sunday's a write off. I'm laying in bed all Sunday, day and night, watching TV and movies and drinking Gatorade. No, and drinking Grape Crush and eating Dagwood sandwiches from Sobeys. That was my Sundays. Also too, like after 2 years, like coming into 3 years sober, the memories of what it was like when you were drinking is still like pretty fresh. Like it's not that much of a stretch to like think back to when I used to drink, because it hadn't been that long. So it's easier, like the hump of like the first year or two, it's hard and you're struggling and your urges and triggers, and then it starts to get better and you're getting a lot better at it, but you still remember what it was like in the past, and it's a good reminder to like, you don't want to go back there. And that's what it was like for me around like year 3 or so. And around that time too, is when I noticed like, wow, alcohol really, or like drinking really amplified and caused a lot of my mental health issues. So it was around year 3 or so is when I was really, really thankful that it wasn't in my life anymore. Sure, I still grieved it, drinking in my old life and my old me, even though I didn't like who I was a lot of the times, but like the grieving was pretty much done around 3 years in. And I just felt very fortunate and happy, very happy that I was sober and that I didn't have to drink anymore. It really felt solid around 3 years in. But when I compare year 3 to like year 5 and 6, like it was so different looking back on it. But in the moment of year 3, it felt good. So into year 4, a lot of my realizations were solidified and I had a lot more peace. And this is one of those things around like repetition. And this is what I tell people if they decide to take a month off from drinking, which is awesome in like every way. You'll notice and it's great. But like say in that month you take off, you only have like one bad day and you want to drink, but then you don't. And then you feel great the next day and you're happy, but it was hard. Maybe you have 2 bad days in that month you took off and you're like, wow, this is really hard. But with repetition, the more times you get over that and come out on the other side and don't drink and be proud of yourself and feel great the next day or whatever, the more times you do that, the easier it gets. So, in just a month off, you don't have the repetition for it to stick in your head that like, oh, I can get through a trigger. I can get through the urge to drink. And it's only like, an hour of, not even sometimes, like a half hour of great discomfort that I really want to drink and all that stuff. And then I push through it and then I don't. And then I feel great and proud of myself. You need more of those times to stick in your head, to be repeated throughout a couple of years for you to really be like, I can get through it. So you really need more examples of that for yourself to see that like you can make it through a tough time. So for me, around year 4, I had enough of those hard times already in those 4 years to know confidently in year 4 that I'm okay if I get an urge. I'm okay if I'm triggered, if I see something, if I'm at the beach and I see people over there drinking Corona, like sometimes that would affect me, sometimes it wouldn't. But by year 4, it wasn't as uncomfortable anymore because I knew that I just had to wait a few minutes and then that urge would go away and I'd be super happy that I didn't have to deal with beer bloat and being hot and drinking warm beer on the beach. So a lot of the bad memories are still there and it kept reminding me to stay sober. But around year 4, I had built my life up so well with so much hard work because I went back to school and I got a career and all that stuff. So around like 4 years sober is when I would look around and be like, oh wow, like look what I've done for myself in my life. Like if I were to drink now, like that would just like this would be gone within a few months. I felt, and like because I would go right back to bad again. And so I felt like I had way too much to lose if I were to slip up. Around year 4 also is when I wouldn't get like a physical reaction if I drove past a liquor store. I would in the first like year or 2, I would get like a panicky feeling or sad feeling whenever I would drive past the liquor store or drive past like a place that I had a bad memory from, or like, oh, I puked in that alleyway. All those situations, like by year 4, like didn't faze me at all. And honestly, like around that time is when I wouldn't even notice the liquor store. I wouldn't even notice like Gus's Pub, like driving up North Street in Halifax. Gus's Pub, that was like my second home for a couple of years, like near the end of when I was at the end of my drinking career. But around year 4, like I'd be like, oh yeah, there's Gus's Pub, no big deal. I don't feel like longing or anything. It was fine. So around year 5 is when I was like, wow, I'm doing it. Like this is 5 years now. Like I'm just not drinking ever again. But the thought did come in my head a lot that like, well, what if I can drink again someday? And I around like that this time frame is when I would think like, yeah, I probably will drink again in the future. Like probably, like year five is when I was still like I still had a bit of grief, that I had to mourn my drinking self and my drinking life. Um, but I was way happier being like living the sober life. But still in my head around year five, I was like, I feel like I'm probably gonna drink again someday. Like it only makes sense, right? Like there was a lot of those questions still going on. I never really felt jealous of drunk people anymore. Like that wasn't a thing. I never really got annoyed by drunk people. Um, but like around that like year five, I guess, is when I started to like maybe go the other way of being like I wasn't annoyed by drunk people. Like they're having fun, it's great, no big deal. Like honestly, it still doesn't bother me. The only feelings I would have towards drunk people would be like I said, like jealousy. But even now, like no, I don't feel that at all. I just feel like good for you, you're having fun. Like doesn't phase me. It honestly doesn't phase me. So around year six, I went through a lot of hard life stuff. Like 2018, 19, 20. There was a lot of deaths and a lot of changes and a lot of really big things that happened and surgeries. So it was a time where, oh, you're not leaving, okay. It was a time where I was super thankful that I no longer drank. Um, Whereas if a lot of those bad things did happen to me, like in year one, I don't know if I would have relapsed or not. Like, I don't think I would have, but it would have been really close. But like year six, I was like, okay, I made it through sober, and a lot of the times I never even thought about drinking during those hard times. It didn't even cross my mind that like a drink would make me feel better after this funeral or whatever. Like, nope, didn't cross my mind. Honestly, it didn't. Where it would have crossed my mind in like year one, two, or even three. So now, in 7 years in, what do I feel about when I think about am I going to drink again someday? At this point, who knows? Maybe decades down the road, like in my 60s or 70s. But then, like, what would be the point? I have no idea. I don't think so. But I'm saying that just to prove, that though that still crosses my mind. That like contemplating it does, and I feel like that will always be in my mind. I feel if you have like 10 years or more, can you comment and tell me, does that ever go away? Does it still cross your mind? Like, what am I gonna drink someday? Am I ever gonna be able to drink normal? I really don't think I ever will. Like I would think, but I don't know. Maybe I'm still very young in my recovery at 7 years. That like who knows? Like me now looking back at like year five, when year five I felt like I was good and solid, but now looking back I was like, oh, well, it was pretty different than it is now. Like I'm even more solid and happy in my sobriety now. So who knows? Maybe year 15 or something, I'll be like, no, for sure, I know I'll never drink again ever. But now I'm like 90% sure I never will. But who knows? But that's the thing. Like now I still have that addict part of my brain. It's not huge anymore. It's small, but it's still there. So when I think about like what would it be like to have like a drink, and I'll think about it, and then like almost right away that addict part of my brain is like, no, you need more than that. You can't. No, you need more than that. It's shocking how strong that voice still is if I give it a microphone. And by giving it a microphone, I mean asking the simple question of like, am I able to have one drink? To my brain, that's me giving my addict voice a microphone and saying, scream into this, because it's pretty much screaming at me when I ask myself if I can just drink like a normal person, Saturdays, and that's it. No, I would drink until I couldn't drink anymore, and then I would keep doing that. And by a few months, like I would be an absolute mess. Like, sure, I might not like lose my job or my car right away, um, but mentally, I would be. it would be horrible. Like the guilt and shame would just be unbearable. And at this point too, I have this YouTube channel, and I also created Sober City for my community here, and in Halifax. So at this point, I would just look foolish if I start to drink again. Um, I feel close to the people who watch my videos, even though I don't know you. I feel close to the people who reach out to me and say, I helped them, or they watched one of my videos and it helped them in the right time and stuff. Like, I feel like I'd be letting you guys down if I drank again. So that's a big, that's definitely a part of why I don't drink, but um, you can't rely on external sources to keep you sober. And I don't. The reasons why I'm sober are all internal. Vast majority, like the hugest part as to why I don't drink anymore is because I know the guilt and shame I would have, and I know it would destroy my husband, and it would make my friends and family so disappointed and sad. Again, that's external, but still, that still affects me. But I know for myself how it would make me feel, and I feel like it would destroy a big part of who I feel like I am if I were to drink again. It really would. I feel like it would be devastating to me. Like when I really think about it. And so is it really worth it that I would want to like maybe have a deep conversation with someone at a night out drinking, like because that was one thing I used to miss, is that like, oh well, once everyone's drinking you can have much more deeper conversations with people, and I miss that. But like a lot of the times it was just a normal drunken night where the next morning I'd just feel like crap, and I'd have panic attacks and anxiety, and I'd have to wear sunglasses inside stores because colors and bright lights would cause a panic attack, and my stomach lining was starting to like get really like burnt and gross, and throwing up bile, and it was just terrible terrible times. So sure, okay, I might not get to that point of peeing myself, throwing out mid-sentence, but I would be betraying my own trust, and that would be devastating to me. Also, I still have drinking dreams, but it's rare. And I think they probably only happen when I'm super stressed out, maybe. But now the drinking dreams are just reoccurring, where I have a dream that I'm drinking at a club and people are asking me why, and I say, oh well, I just drink at clubs every once in a while, it's no big deal. And then I wake up, and then I forget that I even had the dream because it doesn't affect me anymore. And then throughout the day I'm like, oh yeah, I had that drinking dream again. Oh yeah, weird, I don't know. So really, to me, I don't read too much into it. It's just my brain, I think it's just like memories, and then combining the memory with reality now that I don't drink, and then that's what it comes up with. They honestly really don't bother me anymore. But that's something that it might still be a thing for you for a few years. So that's it. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you gained some, I don't know, some insight maybe on what your coming years might be like, or maybe this is all like nothing like what you've experienced so far. Please let me know. I'm very curious to hear how other people view their years when they step back and look at the years like in a very general sense. Like, so what has it been like for you? And are you around like 1 year sober and you're starting to feel that feeling of like, how come everyone else seems to get it, but I don't, I still struggle. And you don't know if you should continue on, like, is it worth it? Like, are you feeling those feelings? Because I hear that's pretty common, and I remember that's how it was for me too. But as they say, it gets better. It really does get better. It honestly does, and you become more and more at peace with your sobriety. But there's still bad days. There's still times where I'm genuinely sad for just a few minutes. When I see pictures of friends hanging out, like, and I don't know, drinking, but it's rare and short-lived. So overall, it's a way better way to live for me and for a lot of people that I talk to who are also sober. They agree. So yeah, how is it for you? Please leave comment and let me know how your years compared to mine. And don't forget to subscribe and click thumbs up on this video, and also click the notification button so you get notified whenever I put out new videos, which seem to be random, but they're amping up a lot more because I have a lot more to say. So that's it. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time. No, I won't. I won't see you, but you will see me. You know. Bye.
Oh, he's so handsome. Such a good boy. Being a handsome guy. Being a handsome guy.